What's up, tubers? Welcome to the video. If you like this kind of content, leave a like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon down below to keep updated for all my future uploads. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to be talking about buying, what you should be buying and how you should be buying in your games of Valorant. Let me set up a scenario for you right now. Let's say I'm Brimstone on defense. On pistol round, you probably want to be buying at least either a Ghost and 2 smokes. Or you could be selling your Ghost, buy a half shield, buy his molly, and buy a smoke. Usually it comes down to whether you want to be buying a Ghost or if you want to be buying your utility. In most cases, if you're a controller on defense, you probably want to be buying utility. Stuff that's going to help your team a lot when people are attacking you. Now on the flip side of that, if you're someone like a duelist, like a Reyna, you might want to be buying a Leer and a Ghost, just because Reyna is more so useful as an attacker and less so as a defender. So in this case, I could buy a Ghost and buy the double smoke on defense if I really wanted to, if I was confident in my Ghost abilities. But yeah, it's just some general tips to get you started on how to buy on pistol round. Now, obviously, these tips vary depending on what role you're playing and which character you're playing. If you're playing someone like a Sentinel, again, your abilities are probably more useful than your gun. So you want to keep your abilities as your priority. Now let's say it's the round after pistol round. In this case, if you lost pistol round, you might actually want to be saving all your abilities and your guns and not buy anything, just because it'll set you up for the next round after to then buy guns and weapons and abilities. But let's say you won pistol round. What I like to do is I like to buy a Spectre and a full shield and then any abilities that I can. This will set you up for having full shield against your opponents who don't have any shield and only have pistols to shoot at you with. This will give you the most advantage while also protecting you. Though I have seen a case for people buying marshals and a full armor. Depending on how good you are with a marshal, it might be better than a Spectre. As far as a Stinger goes, Stingers aren't in the best place right now, but you can still make them work. I've seen some great players use the Stinger. But the majority of the time, you probably want to be buying something low, like a Stinger, Spectre, or Marshal. Something that's going to give you the bang for your buck and use up all your money. Now, another thing you have to keep notice is your allies' money. If your allies' money is very low, you probably don't want to be buying a weapon if they're not buying a weapon. Now, moving on to rounds after the pistol round and the round after pistol round. When it comes to normal rounds like this, you have to then be looking at other people's economy and your economy. If your economy is very high and your teammates are very low, it's best to save your money until the other people on your team are buying. When they start buying, that's when you should be buying. And vice versa. If your economy is low and their economy is high and they're buying, you probably still should be buying. Because if they're buying, you want to be on the same track as them and be in the same money value as them. What this does is create an advantage for you whenever possible and creates a disadvantage for your enemy whenever possible. Now, sometimes it's not really right to be buying. Like, let's say if you only have 2,500 and you don't really have enough to buy full shields and a Spectre. In that case, I would recommend saving and asking the rest of your team to save with you so that you can also buy when they want to buy. Now, all these things vary depending on, again, your teammates and your economy and what happens in the game. You just have to make a judgment call when you learn. Now, following the rounds after, like I said, the guns that I would recommend would be a Phantom, a Vandal, or an Operator. These are some of the best guns in the game, and I'd highly recommend buying them whenever you can. The only time I would buy them, though, is if you can buy a full shield or a half shield when the rest of your team is buying. Another great gun is the Odin. The Odin is barely used, but when it is used, you can be used to wallbang people and shoot them through walls. Now, let's say you don't have exactly enough to buy a Vandal or a Phantom or an Operator with full shield. That's alright. You can always buy a full shield, and if the rest of your team is buying, buy something like a Bulldog or a Judge. Sometimes that variation in changing your weapons that you use can actually help make an advantage for you when you're fighting your opponents. Because if you're always buying a Phantom and you're always buying a Vandal, that's what they expect you to have. What I would recommend for when you're on a save round and you can't really buy very much is either don't buy anything, don't buy any abilities, or don't buy any pistols or guns, or just buy a Sheriff. If you're very skilled and know how to use the Sheriff, you're able to tap heads and get a lot of kills with it. The majority of the time, you probably don't want to be buying abilities when you're saving. In my experience, if you buy abilities when you're saving, you end up wanting to use them and then wasting the money on a round you probably already are going to lose. The objective of saving is not to necessarily just save your money for the next round. It is also to use the guns that you have to kill the opponents and take guns away from them, destroying their economy while also boosting yours for the next round. Now, there's nothing wrong with just buying a half shield. I've seen it and I've done it. Half shield and vandal, you can still get away with it and kill people. So don't ever be afraid to buy just a half shield if the rest of your team is buying full shields or not full shields and vandals. Another quick tip that I would give to you is I wouldn't really buy the operator unless you're somebody like a jet or a chamber or someone with mobility to get out of a sticky situation if you're stuck. Because what can happen is you buy an operator and you're someone like a brimstone, you could take a shot and then you're exposed for the next 2 seconds while you have the animation. If you're someone like a jet, you're able to dash away, or someone like a chamber, you can teleport away after taking that initial shot. As far as when I would use a Guardian, an Ares, or a Bucky, I don't really mess around with Bucky, but I would mess around with Guardian. If you're skilled with it, I would buy it over the Bulldog. And vice versa for the Spectre and the Ares. If you're better with the Ares, I would buy the Ares over the Spectre, because it's the same price. Now, in pistol round, you could also be buying a Ghost, a Frenzy, a Shorty. It really, again, depends on your character. Someone like a Raze can get in their face real quick, or a Neon, and they can use a Shorty on pistol round. But again, it really depends on the character and how you play. Another quick tip is if you're saving, you probably want to be playing a little more passive, or you want to be holding cheeky angles to get kills and pick up a gun from the enemy. What can happen is if you're saving, the enemy could be buying. And in that case, you could steal their gun by killing them and holding a weird angle that they're not expecting. Then you're able to grab the gun and use the gun while you were saving, and you actually have an advantage at that point. Another great thing you can do when you're saving is you actually can go for the orbs. I'll show you right now. Now that the phase has started, you can actually go for these alt orbs, which will then start charging your alt. The risk is that you can get shot while you're trying to get the orb, but if it's a save round, you don't actually much care if you die. You more so got a point for your alt, and now you're ready to be set up for the next round. That being said, obviously don't run right into the orb and hoping to grab it right away and not get shot. You should always try to clear or check to see if people are in that area. One more thing about buying. Honestly, the classic pistol, it's your best friend. It will always be useful no matter what. Honestly, I think it's a little better than a Bucky in some cases. So don't be afraid not to buy anything and just use the classic if you have to. Another great thing you can do is if your allies are buying and you don't think you should be buying, but they're buying anyway, is you can actually just be hugging them the entire game. And what I mean by this is that if they're fighting somebody, you can be next to them to pick up their gun if they happen to die. If they don't die, you can then pick up the gun that the person they killed. What this does actually is just gives you a free gun without you having to do anything. But like I said, a lot of this depends on your character and who you're playing. What works for one person, it might not work for the other. But something that is almost a golden rule is that if the rest of your team is buying, you should also be buying. And if the rest of your team is saving, you should always be saving.
I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant.